Good day, my name is Lanie Francisco and I am your speaker for today's webinar, particularly Garbage to Garden Challenge, which is one way of transitioning to a sustainable lifestyle. So before I even talk about myself and bore you with the details about my life, I would like to ask you a question. Would you be interested to find out how you can actually turn your kitchen waste into rich, black, natural fertilizer or compost for your garden? And then be able to use that garden to actually grow your own food that is nutritious and healthy and safe. If yes, then please hang on tight. I will discuss why we need to do Bokashi, what are the benefits of doing Bokashi, and in general terms, how we can actually do Bokashi right at home and even in the community and hopefully also in the barangay level. So before I even move to that, let me just show you a picture. Okay, so envision a home that is sustainable. Vision of a sustainable lifestyle. My vision of a sustainable household is one that actually knows how to process the kitchen waste so that it can be used for compost. And then like this is just one person, guys. So she actually have a home garden wherein she composts or processes her kitchen waste so that she can use it in her garden, and she was able to grow her own food in her own garden. And mind you, she actually won the best home garden in Barangay Ugong in Valenzuela. So she won that category, best home garden in Barangay Ugong, Valenzuela. So that's just the vision, guys. If this is the vision that you have in mind, please stay. Okay, so now let's talk a bit about myself. My name is Lanie Francisco, and most people in social media actually know me more as Lanie Bokashi. It's just for name recall. I'm the founder and owner of Bokashi Pinoy Composting, a social enterprise dedicated to advocating natural farming methods, permaculture, and also zero waste. So I am a mother of a 14-year-old girl. She's now studying at Miriam College. We used to live as a family, and I used to work in Singapore for 16 years and came back to the Philippines in 2016 to start an organic farm in Nueva Ecija. So I was idealistic and there were a lot of failures and mistakes, but one of the things that I learned during that season of focused farming for about 6 months in 2016 is Bokashi. So it's one way of rehabilitating the land and one permaculture way or permaculture principle of rehabilitating the land. So I've been a Bokashi practitioner in a farm scale since 2016, and I've learned how to apply it at a household scale, and also now learning how to work with a community to make it work at a community scale as well. So I'm an advocate of zero waste and natural farming, and I'm trying to do that. So there was a time when I was traveling in a lot of places in the Philippines, from Isabela to Bicol, just to teach Bokashi at a farm scale and also at a community scale. By profession, I'm actually an electronics and communications engineer. There was a time of soul searching and I was trying to find myself. I've switched several careers over the years. I became a technical trainer, a training manager, a talent manager for a BPO in the Philippines. But I always go back to my first love, which is farming. I came from a family of farmers, so I think it's in my blood. So I think it's something that I cannot escape anyway, so better embrace it. So I've transitioned to this online business since 2016. So I've been doing this 2016, but I've done this full-time just before the ECQ, actually March 13. So I quit my corporate job so that I could focus 100% on the social enterprise. I'm still transitioning into a sustainable lifestyle. I'm really quite happy. It's quite uncommon, I think, to say that I'm happier now during ECQ, Enhanced Community Quarantine, because I've lost the guilt of losing my corporate job because I'm staying at home, I'm creating a home garden, I'm preparing the food for my family, so I feel like I'm doing what I'm supposed to do, doing what I love, and I'm doing doing something meaningful for the community as well. So that's me, that's Lanie Bokashi. So let's move on. So I've mentioned earlier, I want to discuss why we Bokashi, or one of the personal reasons why I Bokashi. There are several reasons. One of them is the state of our agricultural lands in the Philippines. That's one thing that actually motivated me to do this. Number two is the state of garbage, or the issue of garbage in cities and even in rural areas. And number three is the plight of our local farmers. So let's talk about it one by one. So agricultural lands, as you know, 90% of our agricultural lands are now degraded. You know why? It's because every time you plant something in soil, you use up the nutrients in it. And we don't put back that nutrient into the soil the natural way. We put nutrients that are synthetic. We put herbicides that are synthetic and toxic. We use pesticides that are toxic. So that's the reason why for the past decades, since 1950s, when America started sending us all of the synthetic chemicals, we have started degrading our soil. And if we continue for another 16 years, or another 60 years, 60, we would not have any more arable land. Nothing will grow with it, whether we put synthetic fertilizers or organic fertilizer. Hence, to reduce that risk or mitigate that risk today, we need to have wide-scale rehabilitation of farmlands. And Bokashi is one of the best ways to rehabilitate farmlands. I'm not saying that's the only way, but I find that it's the most sustainable and something that is more efficient and more economical. And I'm hoping that more farmlands will actually adapt to the Bokashi way of regenerating or rehabilitating farmlands. It's very important to me because the future of our generation relies on the health of these farmlands, and that's the source of food for most of us. Although right now our rice is actually imported from outside the Philippines, so that's really the sad part. But I'm hoping that there will be a great change in behavior, great change across the Philippines in terms of caring for our own farmlands. And hopefully most of the Filipinos as well start buying local instead of buying imported goods, even if the imported goods is cheaper. At a certain point, the local goods will become much cheaper as well if you buy more of it. Okay, the second reason why I Bokashi is because of the issue of garbage in the cities, in Metro Manila particularly. So as we all know, when your garbage goes into the landfill, it actually creates toxic gas, toxic gases, greenhouse gases like methane, carbon dioxide, even sulfur. Then dioxin also is the cause of cancer for most women because it mimics estrogen. So when biodegradable waste is combined with non-biodegradable waste, toxic gases are more fatal. The second reason is that the leachate from these biodegradable materials also goes to our water system. Everything goes into our underground water system, even the surface water system, and then eventually into the ocean. And that's the reason I'm really quite concerned about how we deal with our biodegradable waste in the cities. There are a lot of effects here that you can see on the picture. I'm not going to discuss those, but in general, it creates water pollution and air pollution. And the only mitigation that we have as of now requires a lot of technologies that we don't have access to, but you and I have access to this technology called Bokashi, and we can do it right at home. So why do we have to wait for all of this industrial scale mitigation when there's something that we can do right at home? Okay, so that's why Bokashi. The third reason is this, and probably this is more of a personal reason for me. We have aging farmers, and all of them, most of them are landless, meaning they don't own the land that they till. So they are at the mercy of the landowners. Whatever the landowners want them to plant, that's what they plant. But in order to be sustainable, in order for them to live a sustainable life, they have to plant more than just one crop. Rice farmers just plant rice. They don't plant vegetables. They don't take care of livestock or even poultry for their own food. So we are creating livelihood programs for them. So instead of throwing their rice hull, which is a byproduct of the processing of rice, instead of throwing it away, we ask them to process it so that it will become your Bokashi Ipa. So every time you buy Bokashi Ipa, you're actually helping these farmers as well. At the same time, we are educating their offsprings for new ways to market and how to create new streams of income. So that's personal reason why I do Bokashi. So let's go back to the topic. Lanie, I really want to have a garden from my garbage. What are you talking about? So anyway, here it is. So before we even talk about that, we want to divert food waste away from the landfill, as I mentioned before, because of the toxic waste it creates. And even if you are segregating your biodegradable waste right now, it still ends up in the landfill together with plastic. And it's still very toxic. Okay, so that's why we need to do something about it. Number 2, okay, you can actually deal with biodegradable waste using the traditional composting way. The problem with traditional composting way, particularly in the city, is that it can be attractive to pests, flies, rodents, even cats, your neighborhood cat and dogs. That's something that you don't want, particularly in the city. With traditional composting, which is open, it is exposed to the air, exposed to the elements, exposed to cats and dogs, rodents, flies, and cockroach. Whereas with Bokashi, it's actually done in airtight containers first, at least for stage 1 and stage 2. So it's not exposed to the elements. And once it is fermented, the pests do not like it. Our pets do not like fermented food. Cats and dogs don't like it. Rats or mouse do not like fermented food. Cockroach and flies and ants do not like fermented food. And that's one of the reasons why we should do Bokashi at the household level. And the number 3, it's scalable. It can be applicable to both small and big households. And I teach different types of households on how to do that at home. So I have online challenges on a monthly basis. So it's a 30-day challenge. And of course, the most important part is that it improves the soil and it provides extra source of income for our landless farmers. So the next question probably is how? How does Bokashi help? Number 1, the fermentation process actually uses an activator composed of effective microorganisms. What the hell? Effective microorganisms. Guys, you drink Yakult, right? Some of you even drink kombucha or kefir. You eat yogurt. You eat kimchi. You eat achara. So you probably eat kimchi and achara for its taste, but for health reasons, you should eat this type of food, because of the live bacteria, beneficial and effective microorganisms that are present in it, so that it will help your digestion. Even if you eat a lot of fiber, especially if you're a meat eater and you started eating fiber, it will be hard for you to digest it and you'll end up with constipation. So it's the same for our soil. For decades, we have been feeding it synthetic chemicals. It's like a meat eater soil. You're feeding it with synthetic chemicals, and then when you start putting biodegradable matter in it, it becomes constipated as well. Hence, you need an activator, you need effective microorganisms in order for the soil to easily digest the biodegradable matter that you put into it. So, fermentation is the heart of Bokashi, guys. In fact, Bokashi means fermented matter or fermented waste. So if you hear fermented as a part of composting, it is Bokashi. So it's really important that you know that the process actually includes a 2-week fermentation process wherein you keep your kitchen waste in an airtight balde or bucket for 2 weeks. You have to seal it tightly. You have to put a date on it so that nobody would open it for 2 weeks. Then after 2 weeks, you will end up with a charang waste or kimchi waste or kimchi or in a charang kitchen waste. So you have to bury that in soil in that state. It's fermented. Why? Again, because of the effective microorganisms. Because during that 2-week period, you're actually proliferating, or you're actually giving the microorganisms a chance to reproduce and eat your kitchen waste. So you'll end up with more effective and friendly microorganisms into your soil. So again, that's the heart of Bokashi, the fermentation, yung pagbuburo, pag-aatsara, or pagkikimchi ng inyong kitchen waste. So that's something that you have to remember. So what can you add in? So there are 2 types of composting, guys. The aerobic composting and the anaerobic, or the traditional composting and the Bokashi type of composting. Let's talk about traditional composting first. In traditional composting, there are 3 types of biodegradable matter that you can add into. There are 3 types of biodegradable waste that you need to be aware of. Okay, 2 types of those biodegradable matter you can put into your traditional compost, but the third type you cannot put into your traditional compost. But in Bokashi, all 3 types of biodegradable matter, the green, the brown, and the never category of biodegradable waste, you can actually Bokashi. So that's the difference between traditional composting and Bokashi. There are certain things that you can't do in traditional composting. So let's discuss each of those categories. The first category is the green category. So these are the materials that are nitrogen rich, that are quick to rot, hence it smells so badly if you leave it unattended without any processing or without any Bokashi. It will smell so bad. So these are your vegetable and fruit peelings, your tea bags and your coffee grounds, even garden trimmings. When you prune your plants, you can also Bokashi that, and grass clippings. You can categorize that as green. So all of these green materials you can put in both traditional and in your Bokashi compost. The brown materials are the ones that supply carbon in your compost. So it includes paper, newspaper, cardboard, twigs, branches, dried leaves. So paper, newspaper, you can also sometimes you can also put that in your Bokashi. Actually, you can put both green and brown. You can put, but in different stages. Okay. Again, both green and brown categories you can put in your traditional compost. You can also Bokashi. Okay, now the third part, the never category. In traditional composting, you cannot include meat, dairy, cooked food. Of course, you cannot put human poo and pet poo. And you cannot put plant food seed heads kasi tutubo sila ulit. So in traditional composting, you cannot put those biodegradable materials under the never category. In Bokashi, you can. There's just a special way of dealing with them. Okay, so those are the difference between traditional composting and Bokashi composting. So just be aware of those 3 types of categories: the green materials, or the nitrogen rich material, the brown materials, which are the carbon rich, and then the never or the red list. You cannot put that in traditional composting, but you can put them in your Bokashi. So those are the things that you can add in your Bokashi. Okay, so how do we deal with that at home? So there's a lot of ways that we generate both biodegradable and non-biodegradable. So my tip for you is to start with Bokashi. As a beginner, if you are new to Bokashi, what I suggest is that in the beginning, on your first bucket or first balde, you just Bokashi fruit and vegetable peelings and tea bags and coffee grounds. That's it, at least for the first balde. Until you finish the whole cycle, it's just fruits and vegetables and tea bags and coffee grounds. That's it for the first bucket. You can also add paper towels and tissues, but not tissue that you use in the toilet. Not the ones that you use for number 1 and number 2. Maybe tissue that you just use to wipe your tables, you can put. Okay, on your second balde, this time you can add more. You can add meat, cooked food, stale bread, you can put them. But don't add fish scraps first until you learn how to deal with them. On your third balde, you can start adding fish scraps. So if you are part of the 30-day challenge, I'm going to walk with you day by day and I'm going to walk with you hand in hand in order for you to learn how to deal with this until it becomes second nature. And then the rest would be plastic and glass, batteries, and metals. You already know how to deal with that, so I'll leave that to you. But my tip is you always think about what you can bokashi first, so that you don't have to put the plastic bags inside your biodegradable bins. Okay, so let's talk about the Bokashi Pinoy method. Bakit meron pang Bokashi Pinoy method? It's because Bokashi is actually it actually started in Japan, which is not as humid and hot as the Philippines. Tapos naging sikat siya sa US and the UK. So we have to do some tweaks in order to adapt it to the Philippine climate and to the Filipino lifestyle. That's the reason why we call it the Bokashi Pinoy method. And again, I teach that to anyone who buys our starter kits. So you will have a support group chat for 6 months, and right now, because we're in ECQ, I conduct a 30-day challenge wherein I'm online daily to answer questions. So what's the Bokashi Pinoy method? It's a 5-stage method, garbage to garden. Stage 1 to 3 deals with the waste, and then stage 4 and 5 is actually how to use that compost in order for you to grow your own food. Okay, what's stage 1? Stage 1 is about segregating your kitchen waste and then adding the Bokashi brand. Okay, so first you put that in smaller tabs like a pita, biscuit container, or an ice cream container, and then every 2 days you transfer that into your Bokashi balde. Then once your Bokashi balde is full, you will start sealing it. You have to seal the balde. You have to seal it and then put a date on it. Like in this example, you will see it's from March 31 to April 14. That's 2 weeks. In order for the fermentation process to be completed. So bakit kailangan ferment again? Para mag-reproduce yung microorganisms sa loob ng balde for 2 weeks. Okay, so what happens after stage 2? After stage 2, there will be stage 3. So after stage 2, you will bury your fermented kitchen waste either directly into the soil in a trench, directly into the soil, or you can layer soil in a box, in a mega box, so 1 layer of soil about 2 inches thick, and then you layer your fermented kitchen waste on it. You can mix it and then put another layer of soil on top so that it won't be attracted to pests and pets as well. Okay, after 2 weeks in stage 3, you can now start using your compost to grow your food. In this example, we planted tomato directly into it. And then stage 5, of course, is the happiest part, wherein you harvest the food that you grew in your own compost. So that's the grand vision, that's the idea of Bokashi Pinoy method. And we have already a few success stories, not just a few, like hundreds of success stories of households that actually complete this stage 5. Okay, so that's stage 5. So again, a vision of a sustainable lifestyle in every home. In the Filipino dialect, you have food for your family, pagkain ng pamilya. Ito yung kalabasa in the example. And then yung mga vegetable peelings is pagkain ng lupa, food for the soil. And then the seeds, you keep them for food in the future, pagkain para sa hinaharap. So yun po yung idea ng garbage to garden, that you have food for your family, you have food for the soil, and you also have food for the future. That's the heart and vision of Bokashi Pinoy. So at some point, I know you will have surplus of compost, even if you have whether you have a condo, you have a few plants here and there, or a big house. At some point you will have surplus compost. Enters community composting. So we have started a pilot project in Barangay Ugong. It was an initiative conceptualized by the late Kagawad Lanie. So she started a mushroom livelihood program for the urban poor, and then she partnered with me so that we can teach the households as well on how to bokashi their kitchen waste, and for them to be able to use that kitchen waste as a fertilizer, as a compost, so that they can grow their own food. Her vision is from mid-term to long-term. So she thinks that at a certain point, the household would have excess compost, so they could bring it into the community garden. They can have community composting bin in a community garden. And then also she realized, oh, there will also come a time wherein they will have excess compost. So she asked for budget for a bioreactor for the barangay hall or the barangay MRF or material recovery facility, and she was able to get that funding. The bioreactor was operational just before she passed away. There were volunteers running it, and we're hoping to make that work again. I'm just fervently hoping for the support of the successors of barangay Kagawad Ani to remove red tape, bureaucracy, and politics so that we continue the good work that Kagawad Ani has started in that barangay. So that's community composting for you guys. We also started another community composting initiative in Santa Ana. That one I call a soil site because it's private, it's not run by the government. Tahanan soil site or Tahanan outreach, you will find it in the website called makesoil.org. So that's for Bokashi practitioners. So meaning if you are a customer of Bokashi Pinoy and you graduated from the 30-day challenge, and for some reason you have excess compost or excess fermented kitchen waste, you can bring it to the Tahanan soil site and it will be processed there. Okay, so that's how community composting. But again, you cannot give away your fermented kitchen waste unless you have shown proof that you also started using it at home. Okay, I also have some customers who live in condos in Metro Manila, but they have a second home in the province. So they bring home their fermented kitchen waste and then bury the fermented kitchen waste in their farms in the provinces. That's also another way of doing that. And lastly, as I've mentioned earlier, the long-term goal is for us to rehabilitate agricultural lands in the Philippines on a large scale. So that's where I started anyway. So this is a 7,500 square meter rice farm that we have started rehabilitating in 2016. 4 years hence, I could say that we have some small successes because right now it's not just a rice farm, it is an integrated farm with vegetables being planted. We have poultry and livestock as well, so it's integrated. So integrated farming is also a way of rehabilitating the land because the manure of the poultry and the livestock actually helps to fertilize the land as well. Adding different crops also helps to retain certain nutrients and replace certain nutrients as well. So I say we have rehabilitated that land like 1 square foot meter at a time, or 1 square foot at a time, because I have some customers who have excess kitchen waste that I also bring home to the farm. So I'm hoping that maybe in the future the local government or the national government would be able to see this initiative and they can see that people can actually learn how to segregate properly, how to process their kitchen waste such that it's easy to transport from one place to a farm in the provinces so that we can fertilize the land for free. And then we also solve the issue about landfill. So I've heard that in 5 years time we will run out of landfills in Metro Manila. So how about hitting 2 birds with 1 stone? Hey, national government leaders, I hope that you're listening to us. We have 5,000 members right now who are willing to segregate their own kitchen waste. Just help us bring this to nearby farms by collecting them properly. Okay, so that's about it, guys. That's all that I could share at this point. In order to sustain this advocacy, in order to also support my family, I have to do some things as well to earn extra money, extra source of income. So I conduct workshops face-to-face, either private or public. Right now, I can only do it online and I do it for free. We sell starter kits. We just ran out of the original balde, but we are going to restock by May 5th. I have an alternative balde which is smaller. It's not industrial grade, but if you are a beginner, I think it will do, just for you to learn the Bokashi way. And of course, we sell Bokashi Ipa in order to provide extra source of income for landless farmers. So it's basically Bokashi brand or Bokashi rice. So we sell that. So if you want to know more about us, look for us in Facebook. The name is Bokashi Pinoy Composting. Same with Instagram is Bokashi Pinoy Composting. I also have a YouTube channel called Bokashi Pinoy Composting. Okay, before I end this, I know at this point in time that we are in quarantine, we need to be looking at both short-term, mid-term, and long-term solution about our food security. Yung ayuda ng gobyerno can just run for several days or several months. At some point, mauubusan din ng pondo ang gobyerno. So if you want food for the long term, start something now. Start composting, start growing your own food, kahit yung even just the vegetable scraps, kangkong, tusok mo lang sa lupa, talbos ng kamote, sweet potato tops, just use the cuttings and then put it into the soil, it will grow. Alugbati, Malabar spinach is easy to grow. Okra is easy to grow. Eggplant is easy to grow even in summer. So do something one day at a time towards self-sustainability, at least for your veggies, no? Okay, so now I actually partnered with Let Lovely Philippines because we are aligned in terms of using our heart in business. The reason why I started this business is because I love my mother. She passed away in 2016. I love my daughter and my father, and I want to have good, nutritious, and safe food for them. I love my community, and I love the people that I'm working with. So I lead with the heart, and that's why I'm aligned with them. But for now, guys, even if we have to talk about food security, we also have to talk about our frontliners. We need to protect them as much as they are protecting us. So I would like to request for your donations, monetary donations and in-kind po, to Let Lovely PH, so that we can protect our frontliners by making personal protective equipment for them, so PPEs, face shields, probably will supply them with vitamin C and alcohol. So donate po. If you have extra cash, you have the means, please donate to Let Lovely PH. And then again, support Bokashi Pinoy Composting as well. So thank you for hanging on until the end of the webinar, and I hope that this will start your journey towards a sustainable lifestyle by processing your garbage so that you can use it for your garden. Thank you and have a nice day.